Hi everybody, my name is Max Maker and this video is about the rainwater infiltration system that I built for my brand new workshop. As you saw last year, my basement got flooded a little bit from a heavy rainstorm, so that kept me thinking, of course, how do we get rid of all of the water that will land on this giant roof, because it's a huge workshop, a ton of water will happen and we need to get rid of that. So I started digging this hole, and this will be the hole for the rainwater infiltration system. I'm using the DrainMax tunnel system from the company Intewa. So all of the water will rush into here, and from there it will go down into the ground. It's raining and the sun is shining. Beautiful. This hole is so big. I imagine this thing would be much smaller. It's 5 meters down there and I need 8 meters in this direction, at least. I kinda underestimated the size because I didn't think about all of the drop off. All of the dirt that I remove, I placed on the side of the hole, and that kinda made the hole deeper. I tried to push it as far outwards as possible with the boom, but it has a limited length, so I really needed a lot of space because all of this dirt piled up even higher if it's just fluffy sand that's standing next to the hole. But with the big machine it was easy enough. I was worrying a little bit about getting out of the hole again, but with this big excavator it has so much force it can easily pull up this ramp, and afterwards I turned around and removed the ramp again. With the long boom it's very easy to work. If you have a shorter machine you can still dig a hole, but you're kinda always working right in front of your feet, and that's a little bit annoying. So that is the hole, and it looks a bit messy, but that is okay, it's only temporary. We just needed to place the tunnel segments inside. So all the rainwater will collect inside these tunnels and they will act as buffers. So the water can slowly seep into the sandy ground over a few hours, and when we have a really big rainstorm, all of the water rushes in, fills this up, and nothing gets flooded on the outside. It's a beautiful evening right now. No wind, the birds are chirping, and I'm leveling this area. Very fun, very satisfying, because with one of these you can really easily get this very flat. So these are the tunnel segments from Intewa, and they're super efficient to ship because they're stackable. My whole system got delivered with just 2 pallets. One pallet was just a fabric to stop the sand from mixing with the water. And that's of course very cheap to ship, and that way it's very efficient. You can just use one tunnel segment if you build just a normal house. But if you're building a giant warehouse, you could have 50 or even 100 of these, and you don't lose any space on the surface. So this is a universal system that can be used for any application, and I really like it because it was so simple to put down. And again, that is something that the homeowner can definitely do himself and save a lot of money that way. These are the end caps for the tunnels, and you just connect them together. You don't even need any fasteners, they just interlock. These are very easy to carry. They weigh, I don't know, maybe 8 kilograms. But these are much bigger and they're cramped in here. No idea how I'm getting these out. It's about the weight of a kayak, so about 30 kilograms. Carrying these is definitely a two-man job, but I didn't have anything else to do on that day, and I didn't have any workers to help me, so I thought, hey, I better get going instead of wasting my time and waiting for a day where more people have time to help. But it was easy enough. I got them down, at least the first 3 segments, to get a feel for how hard it is to put them together, and it's super easy. You really just interlock the pieces. I had to do some figuring out where the right end is, because there's a left end and a right end. But once I figured that out, it was really easy. I had to do a little bit of digging underneath to get it perfectly flat, otherwise they don't interlock really nicely together. But after that, it was super easy. And a week later I returned with a helper and we got this done in, I think, maybe half an hour. It's so quick and easy. All you have to do is lock them and that's it. It's so easy. And this is a bit of a prototype because we have these 2 big tunnels, 1 smaller tunnel. These are just standard tunnels. And then on the end we have 1 special tunnel, and that is for the sediments to settle. So this tunnel is getting a plastic floor, and it's a prototype that serves 2 functions. The segment lets the water infiltrate into the ground just as normal, but it also catches any sediments. And with the smooth floor and the 2 extra shafts that we install above it, it can be cleaned out periodically. Whereas before you would need to install a separate sediment shaft, which adds complexity and costs. And this is an all-in-one system that's much more economic. And Oliver from Intewa told me that the production of the system starts later this year, and it will be much more refined than this. This is just a prototype. So any of the dust that settles on the roof will ultimately be flushed down in here, and then you can scoop it out periodically. So after everything was set down, we could connect it with some pipes. And here we had to cut some holes, and that's easy enough to do with a jigsaw. And these pipes will serve as a vent for the air to go. Because when water rushes in, you need to get rid of the air that's inside of the system. So this will act as a snorkel. And these pipes, they don't really need a slope. They just need to let the air out, and that's pretty simple. So these are the standard German pipes. You can just cut them with a handsaw, or I use the sawzall later on, and they just get pushed together. You need a little bit of lubricant on the gasket, and I think that's a really nice system. It's super easy to do, and with this diameter of pipe, this is a 10 centimeter diameter pipe, it's easy enough to do it on your own, but later on with the 150 and 200 millimeter pipes, it was much harder to push them together. Because to put them together, you need to compress the gasket a little bit, and the bigger the diameter goes, the more force you need for that. So 2 people would have been easier. So this is the snorkel that goes to the surface, and here the slope doesn't matter because it's just air rushing through this, so it's not critical. Next, I had to connect the tunnels at the base, so the water can go from one tunnel to the other. So I sawed some holes into the side, and then I connected them with 15 centimeter pipes. And since it's an infiltration system, it's meant to leak. None of this has to be waterproof, so you can be quite sloppy with this. So all the water from the building will collect in pipes. The pipes will go over here to this first tunnel. That's the sediment tunnel. So the water goes in there and the sediment will settle to the bottom, and only the overflow from this will then go into these 3 tanks. So these are the main tanks. They're not really tanks because they're open on the underside, of course. And from this tank it goes through this pipe to this one and to this one as well. And in this tank we needed to add some access shafts so we can clean it out later. This filter element has to go in there. The filter is not in right now. So I marked it, I'm going to cut it out, and it will be somewhere in there. And the overflow can go through this pipe, through the green one, into the rest of the system. Since this is the prototype, I had to do these cuts myself, but the production version, of course, will come with some preformed holes, or at least some ways to easily mark them and then to cut them out. So this goes in here, and we have a little filter element in there to catch any of the leaves and so on from going to the next tunnel. And to get to the filter element, we have these shafts that get attached. And of course, again, the production version will have an easier way to interlock them together. And I just stuck them on top of each other. And with these tabs on the side, they cannot fall through. And once the sand is packed around this, this will not move anywhere anyway, because the sand interlocks everything. They go all the way to the surface, and then they will have an end cap at the end. So you can go in there with some flushing equipment and get any of the sediments out. And then I had to connect the main inrush pipe. So this is a 200 millimeter pipe, and this pipe really started to get expensive and also heavy. There's a lot of plastic in there, and getting them to fit to each other was really hard to do on your own. Would be much easier if I had a helper on that day. But I wanted to get this done that week because I had ordered a rental excavator for the weekend to fill in this hole and also to spread crushed rocks around the workshop, because the people that build the steel workshop were arriving soon and they need a solid surface to drive on. So I needed the excavator for both of these tasks. So we have a 200 millimeter pipe going into the first tunnel, and then it tees off into 2 150 millimeter pipes, one for the workshop and one for the driveway. Getting these 200 millimeter pipes to push together was quite hard. So after that, I got myself some beer. And funnily enough, the manufacturer of these pipes, they also make beer with the rainwater from their own company, from their roof. So they filter the water. It must be really hard to do the bureaucracy for all of that. But they actually sell beer as well. So this is the final system. Everything is ready to be buried. And this is how it works. The water comes in through these 2 pipes. Then first this one fills up with all of the dirty water, the sediment water, and only the clean water will fill up all of these tanks, and only in a really extreme rainstorm. And from there it can drain down into the soil over a very long period. So pretty simple, and this is the alternative. You just make a ditch like this, which also works, is very cheap, but you cannot park on here. So that's why I wanted to put everything underground to conserve that space. So once this was all set up, we could cover everything with this filter cloth. This will stop any of the sand from going in there, and it will let water through as well. So we didn't know how much length we had, but they gave us plenty. And you can order everything from their website. It's intewa.com. They ship all over Europe, and they even installed some systems in the Middle East and in America. Really good company. I'm really happy that I chose them. So now the whole system is complete and I can backfill everything because we need the space to store all of the materials for the workshop because that stuff is arriving soon and obviously having this underground saves up a whole lot of space on the surface. So I'm backfilling everything with the large excavator and I'm making sure I only backfill it very slowly and from all sides evenly. Now ideally you would compact the sand layer by layer and then you could drive over these tunnels with a 40-ton truck. But I'm not worried about that because most of this area will be just a grass area anyway, and if there's some settlement I really don't mind. Then I had to get out and manually make sure that these slopes are okay and compress the sand underneath, and after some time I had to add some more of these segments to get it to the right height. These two axle shafts will get some nice manhole covers later on, but we haven't determined the final height yet, so we have to do that once we're doing the parking lot and the garden stuff. For now I just roughly smoothed everything out with the excavator. I think it would have been easier with the loader, but I left these holes open so we can still find these pipes and connect them to the rest of the building. Shortly after this, the steel people arrived and started setting up the workshop, and it took them just 4 weeks for the entire structure, including all the windows and the gate. They were incredibly quick, and now we have this beautiful building with a giant roof, and thanks to the underground retention system, we still have plenty of space for the parking lot in front of the building. So in autumn, some of the leaves will end up on this roof and they will be washed down into the retention system, and that's why we have this little filter basket. So you can pull it out via this metal rod, and I still have to determine the right height for this, and then you can clean it out every year and make sure none of the leaves get into the tanks. The steel building people installed the downspouts and it was my job to connect them to the rest of the system. So I ordered 2 bends to go over this little edge here to go into the soil. This was just a test piece and I tried to make the angle as shallow as possible, and it worked out nicely, so I ordered some more of them. And I took them in the workshop first to connect them together with a single rivet. That way they are secure, but I can still remove them if I ever have to do some maintenance on this. But I don't think I will have to do that. So next I could install them and then connect them to the pipes, connecting everything to the retention system. Now it's all done. All of the rainwater can go into the retention system and we get rid of the water. And just 2 days later we had the first test for our system because we had a really big rainstorm and we had a ton of water coming down very quickly. And here on the right side, the pipes weren't connected yet, and you can see just how much water was coming out of there in a very short time period. But on the other side, where the pipes were already connected, you could not see that much because most of the water was going into the infiltration system and then soaking away. Here you can see how high the water rose, so that's not very high. So now the rainwater is sorted, and next up is doing all of the interior work. So first is installing the heat pump. So stay tuned for that. That will be a very interesting video, I think. And we're also doing the electrics, of course, together with the electrician, and all of the interior rooms, the office, the bathrooms, the steel frames here. So please subscribe so you don't miss out on any of those videos. I've got much more planned, and thanks for watching, everybody. My name is Max Maker and I make all kinds of stuff.